miracle this was for Barack Obama to be elected president. They'll see, as they look back, to try to figure out what elements came together to make that possible. They will conclude that this reporter in Washington, by the name of Simeon Booker, through the years, put together a web of knowledge and information that spurred candidates to believe that they could win, in this case, President Obama, and in the minds of others, that was possible for a person of color to win. And that coming together, I think, created a legacy that has destroyed the notion that that it's impossible. I'm not saying when the next one will happen, because nobody knows, but the sense of the impossible has now been emasculated, and I think that that can be attributed to the reporting and of Simeon and how he uses journalistic gifts to create public awareness.
So you guys shared childhood opportunities together, albeit 9 years apart. In your adult opportunities, in your 40s and your 50s, Simeon in his 60s, did you ever cross paths or trade notes and say, would you ever believe this?
Well, we always managed to, there'd be long periods of time in between our visits and so forth, but we always, there was a connection. There was always a connection. And it remained unbroken. I remember, this is just sort of an aside, just to give you an idea. On the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, it was Simeon Booker who broke the news to me. I was an assistant United States attorney in Cleveland. Simeon was in Cleveland to cover a speech by Hubert Humphrey at the Sheraton Hotel, which is just across the square, public square in Cleveland from the courthouse. And I had been over at I went over to hear Humphrey speak. And as the lunch was breaking up, I saw Simeon, and he looked like a ghost. And I looked at him, and I was getting ready to speak. He says, "The president's been shot." I said, "What?" He said, "President Kennedy's been shot down in Dallas." And we were just stunned. He said, "I think he's dead." Well, this was in 1963. You know, we had not thought, it was never on our radar screen that a president was going to be killed. You know, the last president killed, the last president shot was, I think, they tried to shoot Roosevelt. But the thought that Kennedy, who was this hero, was shot, it just stunned the whole world. And I went over to my office, and everybody in the office we had little radios, and this was before TV to speak of, so everybody was listening to the radios, trying to soak up more news. But it was Simeon who gave me the news, and Simeon was just, I mean, he was pale. He just looked like he'd just seen a ghost.
The America you live in today, what about it pleases you most from what you've lived through, what you've seen? What about America works for you today?
What I worry about the America today is that, well, I hearken back to a speech that President Lincoln gave to the Congress and I can't recall the year. And a later statement by the philosopher Santayana, who said that the lessons of history, if unlearned, will require that they be repeated again. That's a paraphrase of the two comments. I'm afraid that if we don't get a better sense of history and understand what has happened and how it happened, so we can make the proper, so the public can make the proper public policy decisions, we will go back and be susceptible to misinformation, to demagoguery, to those who are political opportunists. And you'll find generations of people acting against their own best interests. And that's what we are seeing today. We've emphasized in this country for years, and certainly from the time of we developed our public school system and forward. And I know all of my life, the emphasis was upon learning, knowledge, study, preparation, learning how to think. Education was a value. It was a pathway to success. Now we find education being demeaned. When persons think of President Obama, I mean his critics, they condemn the fact that he is a graduate of the Harvard Law School and was editor-in-chief of the Law Review, which is a huge, huge accomplishment. The smear that was directed at him, that he was not an American, and that he should produce his school transcript. Here's a man who has done everything that the American dream seeks to encourage. He overcame the struggle of living in a single-family, single-parent home. He goes to college and he finds himself eventually and goes to Columbia and graduates, and then he goes to Harvard and does all those things at Harvard, comes back to Chicago and works as a community organizer, working with people. He runs for office against all kinds of odds, and then he becomes the President of the United States, only to be, then he marries, beautiful wife, smart, talented, two lovely daughters, raised with care and with all the taste that you'd want to see a child absorb. Thoughtful, caring people, only to be demeaned by a mentality that disregards those gifts. And that's because of one thing: race. And that means that we in this country have not yet come to grips with this whole matter of race. And how that, I just pray that the way in which race as being used to demean and to diminish achievement, may have an effect that discourages persons from achieving. I mean, I'm sure what kept me out of jail and prison or what have you was I had been encouraged to achieve. The friends I had as a youngster here in Youngstown, the fraternity that I joined at Youngstown College and Youngstown University, the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, has a pledge that we repeated at every meeting as to purpose. It says the purpose of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity is achievement. And that's true not just of that fraternity, but of all these fraternities and sororities that were involved, that black families and black persons have involved themselves in, that the churches, through their youth programs, emphasized for young people to achieve, get an education. And what we were told all the time, what you put in your head, nobody can take out. But then to have your education besmirched, to have your educational achievement be viewed as a negative, and what you give great store to and what value to are elements and components that are so negative and without a purpose. Selfishness, monetary gain, those things. And so I just worry that education, I don't want education to be an achievement that is no longer a premium. We've got to keep education as a premium for this and future generations.
So final point. What do you have left to achieve? What do you want to get done? What's left for it?
Well, I think what I think we have to do is to elevate, once again, the word respect. We have to just, we have to not regard. I think we have to regard respect as a noble goal. Respect for differences. Respect for views that we don't necessarily share. Respect for humanity. Working to relieve pain of all kinds that people are suffering. Respect is one reason I'm so involved in the Freedom Center, is that I think it stands as an institution that has a purpose of helping people understand our history so that they can gain respect for those who helped bring about the change. If you don't understand the past, it's hard for you to have respect for those who are trying to improve the future. So I think I just want to see respect become respectable.
Your name's on a courthouse. Your name's at a court group here in town. It's in Cincinnati. When people say your name, what do you want them to think?
Well, I would like to be thought of as and have the name stir this thought that that one need not be perfect in order to be good. I by no means am perfect, or have I lived a perfect life, but I have tried to be good. And if that goodness, if those efforts at goodness have brought an improvement in the human condition, I think that my living has not been in vain.
Great.
That's it.
Penny?
I think he covered.
Is that it?
That's awesome.
Are you exhausted talking?